every business can benefit from decentralized technology because every business can do away with responsibility they don't want to handle. If you're using a phone, a tablet, a smart TV, some payment happen, or you buying something, selling something, that's most likely involves SUI.
Why is SUI the best blockchain out there?
So
Evan Cheng is the co-founder and CEO of Mysten Labs.
The creator of SUI, the next generation layer 1 blockchain, formerly an engineering leader at Apple and Meta.
He's now building the foundation for the future of Web3.
What is Mysten Labs?
Mysten Labs is the inventor and builder of SUI. We're building the AWS of decentralized future. The company's mission is to enable decentralization.
What is SUI Network if you had to explain it to a mom?
It's a software company, but you don't need to know the details. All you need to know is if you are using the internet, there's a good chance it touches the SUI network.
Some people call SUI the next SOL. Does it make sense?
No.
Why?
There's never a new version of something that is successful. It's like, is Airbnb a better way to hotel? We are very first principled about identifying what problem we're solving, building the solution to solve that problem.
What do you think has won in the crypto ecosystem?
Nothing in this space has won.
Bitcoin hasn't won.
I think Bitcoin has established itself as a credible asset class. I don't even think even the Ethereum folks will argue they won from their perspective or their vision.
You said at the 1 year anniversary, we're probably going to be at 1% forever. What's the day where you can say, I'm proud of what we've achieved and it really made a difference?
I think
69% of the people who watch this podcast have not subscribed. If you enjoy this show, if it provides value to you in one way, shape, or form, can I please ask you a little favor? Can you click that subscribe button, give this video a like, and leave a comment down below? It helps this show more than you can imagine. My goal is to bring the absolute biggest and brightest people on this channel, and the best way to get there is to have all of us rally together and build the When Shift Happens family. Thank you. This conversation is supported by Jupiter, the most used decentralized trading platform on Solana and the largest DAO in the world. Bitwise Asset Management, the crypto specialist asset manager with more than $10 billion in client assets and more than 30 crypto solutions across ETFs, index funds, alpha strategies, staking, and more. SUI, a scalable layer 1 blockchain that's fast, secure, and affordable, built by previous Facebook developers, and that delivers the benefits of Web3 with the ease of Web2. And Mental, an Ethereum layer 2 that built two products I particularly like. FBTC, which enables you to borrow and lend Bitcoin in DeFi, and METH or METH, one of the largest ETH liquid staking protocols in crypto. To support this show, please check the sponsors links in the description down below.
Welcome to the podcast room of the Mysten Labs office.
well, thank you.
I heard that it was never used before for podcasts. It's the first time.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have thought it happened a few times.
How are you doing?
Good.
Evan?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How is life treating you?
It's a lot going on. It's very busy. Incredibly busy.
The life of a CEO in this crazy markets, crazy industry.
Very much so.
If you had to summarize what it is you do and why you do it, what would you say?
We're building the most advanced infrastructure that is going to enable wave for business transformation to actually finally fulfill the vision of the founders of internet. That's what we do. That's what is driving us, right? We're seeing how it went from this peer-to-peer platform for everybody to have the equal playing field to build anything, get the audience they need, to being completely controlled by a centralized middleman to extract value from the customer, to the evolution of introduction of crypto to see it being re-centralized yet again. And this is what drives us, right? The mission is much, much bigger than pretty much anybody realize. That's what drives us.
You said finally.
Finally.
Why do you say that?
Because it hasn't been done. It has repeatedly failed.
Why?
It is really, really hard to build. And we have seen over and over again that any mistakes you make in terms of the infrastructure you're building, it is very, very convenient to fall back to centralization And every time you fall back to centralization, the same thing happens. It's almost forcing company to go back to being evil, because with centralization comes responsibility. You are forced to, you're beholden to contain the integrity of your customers' information, their assets, their data. And something has to pay for the work you have to put in to be responsible for the information, for the data, for the content. And the way to do it is to take a cut, right? Centralized entity, everything from a bank to a web service, they all are providing like assurance of some sort, right? You're almost like insured. Like I leave my information, my content with you, you better not kind of, when I need to retrieve it, it better be pristine, hasn't been compromised. I'm trusting you with my secrets, my key. Okay, it's fair for me as a customer to pay you something. Right? That's the take. That's the cut. So it's a very convenient way to, it's a very convenient business model. And
For everyone.
It's not their fault. If I have to do the work, I want to get paid for it. So what we are trying to do is say, you don't have to do the work. When we talk about business transformation is, imagine you building business where you don't have to do the work to care for customer secrets, because it's guaranteed, because the decentralized infrastructure guarantees it. And all of a sudden you don't have to do the work. Then you don't have to think about how I get paid for providing that trust, providing the assurance.
You mentioned, you said finally, right? And then you said there was a few attempts that all ended up going back to being centralized. Do you have some examples of a few attempts that didn't work?
Well, take the most recent example, Ethereum.
Want to elaborate on that?
Well, Ethereum was supposed to be this coordination layer for the world computer, everything completely permissionless, accessible, and all that. And look what's happening on the Ethereum ecosystem today. Where are most things happening? The number one L2 is Base. They don't even pretend it's decentralized. They're very proudly saying it's centralized. And that's where things are happening, right? That's a re-centralization of Ethereum is happening right in front of us.
Why do you think that's happening?
Well, the infrastructure doesn't work otherwise. Right? Everything about the scalability, the cost issue, which they cannot solve, because architecture is built incorrectly. How to access the network, how to onboard customers and all that, it doesn't work. Security-wise, it's proven to be very fragile. It's very easy to hack. You go down the list. So now you have a big company comes along and say, we solve those problems for you. Trust us because Coinbase, the biggest player in crypto, is behind it. You trust them. They're they're providing a trust. Once again, we have a centralized entity incoming and providing trust. And there's no wonder. Remember, the infrastructure is built on top of optimism. So they can't even say it's fundamentally better than other L2. Why is the one that's grown the fastest? Because you have a public company behind it. It's trusted. So, distribution is much simpler. A lot of people have Coinbase account. So onboarding customers much easier. But nowhere, and it's probably centralized, right? And we're seeing the freshest example of, once again, peer-to-peer or decentralized model just very, very hard to scale, very hard for it to be performant, very hard to build for customers.
I actually had the Jesse Pollack on this podcast, and we talked about that. And I also kind of poked him with a tweet that Kyle Samani, who is very pro Solana, obviously, he often says the future of Ethereum is Coinbase.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to make a ethical, moral judgment here, right? This is the thing that's hard. If I think that this industry is very naive in a lot of way, right? Look at the narrative we've been pushing for many years. Is like, what's good for consumers, for consumer to have control of their assets, right? We talk about not your key, not your Bitcoin, or not your key, not your crypto. It's a very naive way of thinking about it. It's because what's the flip side of that? Somebody have to build service, product, and business. And if you're building a business, you need to make a living. If you don't have a path to make a living, nobody will be building business or services that's good for customers. So there's a two-sided dynamic. And if your infrastructure doesn't allow that to happen, because you have all these other issues, it's inconvenience, too slow, too not scalable, I can't trust it. Of course, you're going to fall back to a centralized solution.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's very refreshing to hear. I mean, we're here in Palo Alto, Silicon Valley, San Francisco, and I'm here recording a bunch of podcasts with other people who are very down to earth like you. There's not many people like that in crypto. Talking to Brandon from Phantom, right? And I can definitely feel also your kind of Facebook background and like just being on earth and being like, hey guys, if we don't, not to kiss not to coin is great, right? It's a great concept in theory, but in practice, it's very complicated for normal people. And also, even for people who could do it or who can do it, when you have a certain amount of money, you don't want to do that, right? We want to delegate the responsibility we said before, right? Mm-hmm. And so, very complicated. And
very complicated.
And very refreshing to see someone who is just down to earth in this very nerdy world where everybody thinks, it's very theoretical always. So you're a down to earth person. Who are you?
Well, I mean, I was an engineer for or technical leaders, if you would say for 20, 25, 26 years before I decided to leave the comfort of big tech, comfortable, cushy position, and to try to do something that's really hard. That's who I am. That has sort of been my MO for my entire career. Is I like to take on things other people find very difficult.
Dear When Shift Happens family, the following message is probably the single most important thing you should take away from today's podcast. If you're serious about your crypto investing journey, please take some time to learn how to self-custody your assets to make sure that nobody can take your coins away. Ever. If you don't learn how to be your own bank, it is very likely that one day you will lose all your hard-earned crypto. The safest way to hold your crypto is in a cold storage that we also call hardware wallets. Hardware wallets are not complicated and they give you peace of mind. I personally use a hardware wallet called Trezor. It is open source, very easy to use, and the first hardware wallet created ever. As we like to say it in crypto, not your keys, not your coin. You can order your Trezor wallet with a 10% discount by following the link in the description down below and by using the promo code WSH10. And now, back to the episode.
What made you wait 20 years to start to something that is extremely hard?
Well, there are many factors, including personal reasons, but ultimately, two reasons. One is I feel like if we don't do it, we have to prove ourselves, right? If, we can't just talk about it. If we don't do it, I don't see anybody else recognizing it and have the ambition or the ability to execute on this vision. The other one is we feel like we had an edge at that point in time when we, in late 2022, it's like, this is the time for us. We have the talent. We have the know-how. So that combination, the conversions of those two understandings is what drove us to come out and start a company.
There's a common pattern across many people I talked to on this podcast who are very successful, working on very hard things, taking a lot of risks. They have something that happened in their life, either in their childhood or later on in their life, that gave them a chip on the shoulder. And that's why they have this fire in the belly. What happened in your life that might explain your hunger for success and huge fire in the belly?
Just give you a couple of examples. I worked at Apple for 10 years. I was recognized internally, if you ask around at Apple at that time, one of the people who know what they're doing, who do hard stuff. And I remember my partner and I received this ACM award, which is a pretty big deal. Once a year, they give it to some project, typically open source project. They have made like massive contribution to the world of computer science. It's kind of like software system everybody uses. Apple didn't even say anything.
I read that the World Wide Web inventor also received this award.
Yeah. Or Unix, Java, web browser.
So you were recognized
externally,
but for something that you did at Apple?
Yeah. Internally, there was not a peep.
Why?
It's it's a good question. Like I didn't think a lot about it at that time. Later on, recognizes it doesn't matter for the business. It didn't matter for the company. It didn't necessarily immediately at that time contribute to the business. Therefore, there was no recognition. And we can talk about the politics, company politics of the world. But that part is not really important, right? I'm sure if the award come with a $1 billion contract to Apple, they would care. They would recognize. That's how it is, right? So I think that's that one the understanding, one the realization at the time was, well, I need to go somewhere where my work is really fully recognized. Clearly, there's something that I need to do better for myself to get the recognition, the reward I deserved. And also understanding there's only so much I can do to influence the direction of a very big corporation like Apple, which was kind of reinforced that learning later on at Meta, at Facebook. It is very, very difficult to change people's minds because they focus on what is in front of them. And that applies to big companies too, right? What is the big company's focus, what they want to accomplish? You can't be just sort of shouting, you don't have your sort of soapbox. I could have stand on a soapbox and yelled about how important it is to decentralize. Otherwise, the world is going to go to shit, right? And that's sort of like was the understanding is like, if you want something, you want to enable change, you kind of have to do it yourself.
You have to do it yourself.
Yeah. That's pretty simple in a lot of ways.
Especially because in these big companies, there's not only people doing what is in front of them, but then you have also doing what's best for themselves as an individual in the company, just because, hey, I want to do well in my career, and therefore, How? Just a parenthesis here. How did this Apple experience of not being recognized influence the kind of culture we're building at Mysten Labs? Because it's probably much easier in, again, theory than in practice to even say, hey, let's build a company that at a certain scale, we have a certain amount of people. We make sure, like, if something happens that's really like important to someone, we are even aware of it, right? Let alone celebrate it, but it's much harder than it sounds like to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, people often say, "Oh, it's a big company problem. Smaller company wouldn't have the problem." That's completely not true. It's where every individual feel like if they have the agency to do what's right, what's important. If their first thoughts, do I do this? Do I do it this way? If it's important for the company first, rather than thinking about, is this good for me? So that's ultimately the difference. So the company culture has to be, everybody has an agency to do what's right.
Can you define agency?
Well,
what's a high agency person?
They are not asking for permission. They know exactly what needs to be done. They are not waiting around for somebody's permission. That doesn't mean they're just kind of reckless and go ahead and do things, right? First, they have to have recognition of what's right. Secondly, they have to have ability to pull it off. And number 3 is to convince other people, their team members and the people who needs to know and help them to accomplish things. They have to be able to convince them with concrete information, concrete data. So that's the kind of company we have here. It's everybody have the agency to, basically say, this is how it should be done. Let me explain to you. Let me prove it to you. This is what needs to be done. They're not waiting for someone to tell them to do something.
How do you find those people? How can you judge in the beginning, this is a high agency person?
I think a lot of people are like that. I think if you talk to, there's a lot of smart people, and everybody will agree this is the kind of environment they want to be in. I think it's most importantly just I think whoever's founding the company needs to lead by example. That's how we do things. They need to believe they have the trust of the founders to do them, right? This is why, using an example of Meta again, a founder-led company typically they enable changes, like shift in how company operates much, much quicker, much faster, because they don't have to look over their shoulder. And I think that's come from the founder first and foremost, setting example. Most people want to operate that way. Most people love to be in an environment that allow them to do what's right and don't have to ever worry about company politics and waiting for permission. And the waiting for permission part is really hard. At big company, sometimes we get sort of almost beat down, afraid to ask for permission, right? Because you think about the amount of work you have to do, the people you have to convince. A lot of people would misalign with what you want to do. We remove all those friction, remove all those worries. So it's very, very easy. It just kind of naturally happens. That's the way, that's the way we operate.
So you mentioned you have quite a few things that happened for this chip on the shoulder. You mentioned the Apple story. What else comes to your mind that makes you really want to kill it with SUI and Mysten Labs?
I can tell you early on in the conversation about building a Mysten Lab and building SUI, the number one question, the question we get asked the most is, what's your EVM compatibility story? What do you think about the solidity in the engineers? All that feedback we receive about, Ethereum has already won, Solidity has already won. If you don't have a solution, don't have a story there, we're not interested. That is very much, that makes the chips on the shoulder even bigger.
So it's to prove people that they can be wrong or that they are wrong, or it's based on all the feedback that you had from the actual field. saying actually, hey, the way it's being done until now is not going to work and scale? Or is it a combination of both?
Early on, there were no evidence of that. I think we have high conviction. We're right. And we very much want to prove people wrong. Because I think it's almost like it was a statement. It was not a question. And it was not one that invite debate. It was not one that invites, sort of this very principled discussion about why, right? There wasn't a lot of like, why do you not do this? Rather than, we believe that should be true. The market tells us that's true. Therefore, what's your answer to that? And I think even today's, right? I say most of the projects, a lot of infrastructure projects still very much focus on being compatible and attracting the few thousands of developer to the platform, which to us, given the background we have, is insane. It's a small, tiny developer base.
It sounds like a corporate problem where you go around and there's things, for example, in the IT space, some reports or systems. Hey, why are we looking at that? Or why are we looking at that way? And they're just saying, it's because we've been doing that for 10 years. They don't really question the thing and try to get better. And that's kind of the human way of thinking, is like, we like to feel comfortable, I guess. But just...
how many times have you heard some kind of statement, something has won? Right? Surely this is all you need.
What do you think has won in the crypto ecosystem?
Nothing.
Do you think there's one thing that can say,
no?
For example, Bitcoin, you would say Bitcoin hasn't won.
I think Bitcoin has established itself as a credible asset class. Do I call that as one? I don't even think even the Ethereum folks will argue they won from their perspective or their vision. Right? Remember, the vision of Bitcoin is money. Yep. Is a form of money. I don't think I won. In fact,
it was peer-to-peer cash system, not a store of value. Absolutely.
He's evolving into something that's different, which is great. I hope Bitcoin, believe in Bitcoin, but not necessarily. I would definitely not say as one as money. So nothing in this space has won.
How did you get so fascinated by the world of the blockchain and cryptocurrencies?
It really is, it's really, really, really different, right? That's the first reason why people are fascinated by it. People are fascinated. There are people fascinated by this phenomenon. A lot of people outside the industry are looking for when it's going to blow up. That's a form of fascination. And I think there's a lot of people fascinated by it because once you understand it just seems so right. A form of hard money, a way of infrastructure where you can trust something that's infallible rather than human who are, fallible by definition, and not trustworthy by definition. So it's really, really easy to kind of understand, grok those concepts. And same thing, how I got into this space is fascinated by this concept of distributed trust and trusting software rather than trusting human. Totally can understand the fascination.
And this was why at Facebook?
This was early days of Facebook. I actually discovered Ethereum and blockchain and Bitcoin late, 2015.
You worked at Facebook in a team called Novi Research. What was Novi?
So Novi was the subsidiary of Facebook that was kind of responsible for not just building the blockchain, the Libra DM project blockchain, also building financial services on top of it.
What's the single most important thing that you learned while working at the Novi team?
It's a good question. There's a number of learnings. I think perhaps the most important learning is I saw with, firsthand how a motivated, highly talented group of people who believe in the same thing and moving in the same direction, how much you can get done. My teams before were much bigger. And I somehow forgot the early days of Apple when just basically 2 engineers started a project that actually changed the world in a lot of ways, right? My software, my partners work on this thing together. It's literally in billions of devices now and impacting billions of humans. I mean, probably not billions, but maybe, I don't know how many people own smartphones and smart devices, but it's probably approaching it. How many millions of developers using it? The foundation of a lot of software. We started with 2 people and growing into a bigger team. Somehow through that process, then from Apple, then Facebook, I forgot what's it like to have this lean and highly motivated, highly talented team. What can be done? And that sort of reawakened that desire to do it again, to show what's possible.
Novi Research got shut down?
The whole project got shut down. So the Libra DM project got shut down. The Novi as an entity within Meta, I think it merged with the broader sort of financial service or payment organization that lived for a while, but effectively everything that was, involved blockchain was shut down.
How did you feel when that happened?
To be honest, by the time it was shut down, we knew. The moment that hurts the most when we were now, we sort of shut down the blockchain development came earlier. The mission was to have this kind of new payment rail that will power everything that was killed earlier. And we struggle along trying to identify a different product using the blockchain technology we developed for a few months. I think roughly about 4 months before I left for good. We tried again to use it for internal other kind of project. Later on, remember Instagram adopted Polygon. We were meant to build something before that.
Was there really an adoption? It was more like I remember the headlines and everything, but
yeah, the ambition was bigger. The ambition was much bigger, but was supposed to be this identity layer, supposed to have a way of, it never got anywhere. Again, internal challenges working at a big company made it impossible. So by the time the group was shut down, sort of like we were kind of numb, right? Because it's sort of the first the regulator came and say, you can't launch this. You can't launch your currency. You can't launch your blockchain. That was shut down. And then we struggled a bit for another product, and it wasn't going anywhere. So by the time we were ready to leave, we're numb, right? We were not feeling anything at that point.
So you left directly with the idea of Mysten Labs?
Mm-hmm.
That's what happened?
Yeah.
You left with your team members and started Mysten Labs?
I left with my co-founders. I left first. My co-founders want to join, for various different personal reason. They couldn't join right away, but I was fine leaving first to get things started. But we already knew directionally where we're going. We didn't have a design for SUI yet. We didn't have a design for, definitely not worse yet. We didn't have a design for what that future would look like, but we had a directionally know where we're going.
You left Facebook to start your first company, Mysten Labs, around the age of 50.
I think I was 51 or 50. So past 50.
What's your message to anyone who feels they missed their entrepreneurship chance in their 20s or 30s or even 40s and who think they're too old to start a company?
Clearly, it's not too old to start a company. Not only did I start a company in my 50s, it's a crypto company.
There's this Gary V quote. He says, man thinks 40 is too late and never became a fried chicken billionaire. Obviously talking about the Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah. And
for you,
and
for you, it's 50 and it's crypto. It's not fried chickens. So it's like definitely another level. What's the biggest challenge when starting a business at 50?
There's a lot of sacrifice. Family. My family was used to me being around all the time. I was mostly in engineering. There wasn't a lot of, it was pretty, stable is not the right word, predictable, right? Just focus on work, focus on engineering work, running teams, which is completely different than running a company. Have to jump on a call at any point in time, have to travel when I need to travel, have to deal with all kinds of crazy stuff, have to be on Twitter all the time, have to deal with crisis, PR crisis, people attacking you out of blue, reputation risk. I had friends who were like, why did you go to the dark side? They believe crypto is full of, bad actors. People are just, this is, this industry still don't have the best reputation even today. It's a lot of bad actors, a lot of people rug pull, and they're just fundamentally not believing in the vision and of decentralization. Even today is a very, very difficult message. So I had a lot of those conversations with friends and colleagues and explaining to them what I'm trying to accomplish. Big vision generally was not easy conversations.
How do you negotiate with your wife?
Well, you don't negotiate with your wife, first of all. I've been happily married for many years, 20-some years. There's no negotiation.
So, fair enough. So what do? You're like, okay, I'm 51. I was pretty busy before, but we had a lot of time together. Now I'm building this company, and our goal is to change everything and finally realize this mission that the internet has, right? Which is a mega. You said before, in the beginning, you said this is much bigger than people think. What do you tell your wife? You don't tell her.
Trust me, I know what I'm doing, basically, and sort of buy some credibility along the way. Able to raise money, able to build a team, and then building product, launching product, and then go through the up and downs for a period of time to prove the product has product market fit. There's interest in the market for our product. Just along the way, earning credits. It's like, I have to prove myself all over again to her.
When you raise $300 million, like you can say, hey, look, we kind of like are on the right track, or at least like is a sign that it could be a bit more chill.
If I were in her shoes, I'd probably have the same skepticism. Here I was over 50 years old, being a geek, a nerd my entire life. Never really enjoyed, really like socialize with people, definitely not a business person. All that, right? And have to learn and do that at a ripe young age of 50 years old. Yeah, I would be skeptical too.
That's so interesting. You're an engineer at heart, but you are the CEO of Mysten Labs, right? You said, I didn't like to socialize. Why you, out of the other 4 co-founders, out of the 5 co-founders of Mysten Labs?
Well, probably because I stood up, say, I'm going to start a company. You guys want to come along? We all agreed. While I was leading Novi research, my co-founder will work with me. They trust me. I think the first thing that kind of qualify me as a CEO is I earned their trust. I earned their trust on 2 fronts. One is what I'm trying to accomplish. And 2, my ability to do the things I say I was going to do, building teams and help them with everything and learn and execute on everything we will try to do. I guess they had that trust in me. I'm grateful for that trust. So far, so good. Yeah.
What's the hardest part of being a CEO? Especially when you're more on the geeky side all your life.
People say that, and I'm learning that's true. Being a CEO is a very lonely job because ultimately the weight of all the responsibility fall on the CEO. It's literally that I can't blame anybody else. I don't have an excuse. I can't look to someone else and say, they should have told me what to do. It's me. I answer to myself and myself. I answer to everybody, but at the same time, I don't have someone to guide me, to tell me, to show me what to do.
You sometimes wish you had another role at Mysten Labs?
No.
The Libra failure and the Novi research shutdown were most likely one of the biggest disappointments for everyone who was involved and working for years. It was also the reason why you started Mysten Labs with your 4 other co-founders. You believe in destiny?
I don't think that way. I don't say I believe in we're destined to do something. I just have the overwhelming confidence in our destiny. Because what we are trying to build is the right way to do it, to go. We believe in this potential of transforming business. And we also, if you also look back to, again, if you think about what internet was built for, what it's trying to enable, we're just carrying on a lot of that vision. We're trying to fulfill that. And that is right. I think everybody would agree that's right. To have a way to even the playing field, to give every competitor an opportunity to compete fairly. It's, I don't want to come across as sort of like a, moral high ground kind of thing, but it's the right thing to do. Coupled with when I look around the people at Mysten, and you're here, right, in this office, you saw the energy of our partners.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Everybody was like, we're right. I was like, is this a party here or what?
Right.
Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, we have overwhelming confidence future and believe in what we're building is worthwhile.
What is Mysten Labs?
What is Mysten Labs? It's a very complicated question. Can have a very complicated answer. On one hand, you can say Mysten Lab is the inventor and builder of SUI, which you all know and love. You can say it's also the builder of words, and you can expand upon it, say we're building the sort of the AWS of decentralized future. the way I would think about it is Mysten Lab is a collection of highly ambitious people who believe the future is going to look quite different than it is now. And we want to be there to pave the way for everyone. I don't know how to define it, which is what I like about it. It's not simple. It's not like the company's mission is to enable this. We can say that the company's mission is to enable business transformation to decentralize, to decentralization. But at the same time, I don't want to put out any kind of statement that would limit our potential.
How do you manage 5 co-founders on the human level?
You don't manage them. I often joke around to say, with people and with folks, is I'm completely unmanageable as an individual. My past manager have learned to let me do what I want to do because they learned that hard lesson and not try to manage me. And I look around, I think, all 5 of us are quite like that. None of us are manageable. We're meant to do what we are doing right now. I think we just have a lot of trust in each other. And I think we were lucky to have the opportunity to come together and experience what's it like to work together at Meta. I'm forever grateful for the experience there. And Novi, that's the best part of it. And since then, we only strengthen our trust and belief in each other. So there's not much of managing 5 co-founders. I think all 5 of us believe this is it for us in terms of career. We're going to keep building and keep building together. And because we have that belief, everything else is not that important in a lot of ways. Whenever we have any kind of conflict, if you approach a conflict saying, regardless of what happens, we will find a path forward. We will have a resolution that we all will be comfortable with. And you approach things very differently with that mindset. You're never in fear, this is going to be something that breaks us apart. Right? It's almost like if you're approaching any kind of relationship problem with that mindset, it's like you never have to worry about something will cause the kind of damage it will force you to consider a bad outcome. And I think you approach every situation in a very positive mindset. So that's what we have as 5 co-founders.
But that's much harder than it sounds like. That's what I think. The third, I think, co-founder breakup is the third reason why businesses fail.
Running out of money, co-founder disputes,
and obviously product market fit. I think it's product market fit, running out of money, and then co-founder dispute. And it's one that is actually pretty documented, but people don't really talk about.
Yeah,
because you never think. I mean, like when you get in a relationship, you don't really think like, hey, this is gonna not work, right? But it happens a lot. And
yeah, most VC probably won't fund a team that with 5 co-founders. To them, the ideal sweet spot is probably 2. Solo founder is a little scary.
Is it
beyond 2 is scary?
Is it something that you actually faced in the beginning? They concretely asked you like, do you need 5 co-founders? Like, what's the how do you convince them if you say that most VC will not fund a company with 5 co-founders?
I don't know if we're lucky, but I think we were able to articulate the roles very clearly from the very beginning. If you think about it, we have 3, let's just say 3 technical co-founders. I don't even count myself among that anymore. And they are in dispute kind of a, like leader in their respective field, distributed system, programming language, cryptography.
Mm.
Okay. And that maps almost perfectly to what we're trying to build. Then you have my co-founder, Eddie, who's, one of the few product person in the industry that have experience in, large institutions and corporations, as well as, kind of have the experience of building, like a very crypto-centric startup himself. And then I somehow bring them together and provide leadership and have both a technical background and understanding of product and everything else. So we complement each other very well, and we have worked together well. So that has never arrived as a concern from investor. Maybe it has, but it has not been an issue.
What's your thought on, because again, this is like something I've seen so much, especially for people who start their first company. How do you split shares in the beginning? Multiple co-founders, who owns what?
Yeah, for us, it was really easy. We kind of just knew. I mean, basically, the story, I shared before was Eddie and I were thinking about leaving to do something together. So when I decided to do it, I asked him to say yes. And he said, but we need these kind of talent. And he pointed to the other three co-founders, Sam, George, and Costas. And then I think the second person I approached was Costas. And Costas said, if I just have Sam and George and Eddie, this is a done deal for me. And I approached Sam. He said the exact same thing, point to the other three people. And George was like, oh, wait, you got these other people? I'm in. We just decided because we saw immediately how the five of us complement each other and we all enjoy working with each other. We all on the same wavelengths. We all want the same thing. We all have the same ambition, what we were trying to do. It was very natural. We never had those arguments about who does what. We had a little bit of debates about, titles or roles and all that, but never any dispute about responsibilities.
Did you have debates on who owns what? That's a stupid one, but it's actually talked a lot in Y Combinator. There's different ways to think about it.
Yeah.
But when you start a company, who owns what, and it actually can create problems in the future.
This is what we talk about. How do you set example? How do you create a culture of high agency people? How do you recruit them? How do you enable them? I think that's what we had among the co-founders. We never had these debates about who owns what and who should be doing what. And we just start doing them. It was just very natural. I never did fundraising before. I just say, we say, okay, now we have people starting to be interested in working with us. We should talk about fundraising. I just start doing it as CEO. I'll do it. I don't need to ask for anything. Anybody, just start doing it. I had to figuring out, building our team. We need to figure out how to, I never even worked with a lawyer before. I have to hire a general counsel, start interviewing people, talking to people. We just start doing things. And if anybody has opinions or suggestions, we just offer them to each other. There was never any debate about who owns what. And that's the foundation. This has been the way we operate from the very beginning.
I asked you before, what is Mysten Labs? You said it's complicated. I like to do what I call the mother test. What is SUI Network if you had to explain it to your mom?
Ooh, hard one. To my mom, I would say it's a software company, it's an infrastructure company, but you don't need to know the details. All you need to know is in 5 years, if you're using a phone, if you're using a tablet, you're using a smart TV or whatever, that's something is happening on the internet, something happens, there's a good chance it touches the SUI network in some way. If it's like some payment happened, or you buying something, selling something, some product you interact with, that's most likely, involves SUI.
Some people call SUI the next SOL. Does it make sense?
No.
Why?
Because that's not the right way to think about anything, let alone SUI. There's never a new version of something and that is successful. It's like, is Airbnb a better way to hotel? There's fundamental differences there, how they approach the business that make that product different. So I never want to think of ourselves as a better version of something that's already happened. We are very first principled about identify what problem we're solving and building the solution to solve that problem. That's what we would think about it. Do we compete with Solana in the market? Yes. Do we think of ourselves as an iteration of Solana, or from every angle, how it's designed, how it works, to what we want to enable, to our business model? It's very different. So no, I don't agree with that at all.
How advanced, or what's the progress in terms of this big picture of SUI and Mysten Labs to finally kind of tackle this big internet problem? Where are we at?
I scare my team at our 1 year anniversary saying, 1 year done. We had a T-shirt that say 1 year done, 1% solved. I know that's kind of cliche, but I think we're going to be forever at the 1% level, because there's always something that can get better, something can improve. Even if you say every internet interaction today involves SUI, which we don't know how far away that is, probably many years ago, we can probably still finding improvements, a lot of things that we are dissatisfied with, we think can be even less friction, even more seamless, even better. I think at the same time, we come a long way. But if you look at ultimately the amount of impact we deliver to the world, we're so early. It's very, very early. We have established SUI as a notable platform. We have partners and customers who clearly love what we build. People are benefiting from their investment in SUI. We now have business that are successful using SUI technology. They have established themselves. It's great progress, but it's really, really far from that next chapter where we are seeing a new type of business being built, new products being built. We're not even there.
What's an example of a new type of business that could be built?
We fundamentally believe every business can benefit from decentralized technology, because every business can do away with responsibility they don't want to handle when it comes to involving their customers, data, information, the money, anything. So there's not one thing that we cannot provide as a positive impact. Obviously, not every business is going to change. But we also imagine new business that currently doesn't exist will take advantage of the technology to approach the market very differently. You name it. What's the one service you can live without today?
That I can?
You cannot live without. Something you use every day. Twitter.
I mean, absolutely. Twitter, YouTube is just prime example. Very easy example that
YouTube, such an easy example, content distribution. Why wouldn't it be better if it's using decentralized storage like Wars, where you can provide absolute guarantee the content hasn't been, changed by the creator? And why couldn't you automate the distribution? Why does it have to go through a centralized entity? Say, I will pay to unlock this content, or you have performed certain function that will unlock the content for you. Why can't you share the content in a way that's much more seamless? Shouldn't the platform be a curation platform, discovery platform? Why does it have to handle every aspect?
And one example that is actually already pretty useful, I mean, it's still pretty centralized, but that is so useful for me. I think a lot of people are not there yet. In our industry, probably a lot. Outside, probably less, but stable coins. Just being able to not have to use these freaking banks.
Yeah.
That just
Payment, obviously.
It's horrible. I just, with my businesses, just the money just stuck there. I need to send so much paper to, and then they just cancel all the payments. And I'm like, my business is frozen. It's going to die. You're not letting me pay. Then I use this cast stable coin card, right? Which is like a basically on-chain bank account, like a Revolut or Revolut on-chain. And it's just working. And I'm just sending them. I mean, it's USD to USDC. It's still centralized, right? But it's so amazing.
Well, it's immediately settled. That makes all the difference for a small medium business. You don't have to have a buffer to pay your employees or pay your bills, because you can budget much more down to maybe a day, right? As long as I receive this payment in stablecoin on that day, I can pay these bills right away. Yeah. I don't have to have the buffer and reserve. Making money. This is essentially making money move faster and cheaper.
It's life-changing for business.
Yeah.
I have a business outside of crypto, data analytics, since 10 years. I have a business in crypto. And the difference is just, as you say, making money move faster. It's so stupid, but I'm like, we do a sponsorship contract, whatever. Money is paid upfront, boom, done, received. Normal word. It's fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It's horrible. You always playing the bank. They're paying late. Therefore I pay people late, contractor, all that stuff. And it's horrible. The dynamic is terrible.
Right. I mean, think about it. If you are a producer of content and you want to know exactly how your content has been utilized, has been reshared on, say, YouTube or any other platform, has been reshared outside the platform, who's providing the content of that? Is it properly monetized for you? Who do you trust? Right. Right now you say, I can trust YouTube. Sure.
I have to.
You have to.
I'm the choice.
And because they have that trust, it's almost impossible for somebody to come in and say, I'm going to undercut YouTube. I'm going to share more to the content producer. It wouldn't be sufficient because it's the trust issue. It's the audience they have already. So that these are the things that makes possible. These are the technology makes it possible to build competing products and have a chance.
You said at the 1 year anniversary, you had this T-shirt, 1%. And then you said you were probably going to be at 1% forever. What's the day where you can say, I'm proud of what we've achieved and it really made a difference?
I think when the moment comes, I don't know how to describe it, but it will be obvious when it happens. So, in a lot of ways, right, every day I'm very proud of what we already achieved, right? I'm very proud of the team. I'm very proud this team was 100 some people can build so much and continue to ship, continue to build. And I'm proud of the energy we have in the office today and the partners.
Incredible. I have to acknowledge incredible.
But that moment when you say you have made it, when maybe something you can point to everybody who's outside the industry is like that use our technology, it might be coming very soon. I wish weeks.
What could that be?
Well, you're gonna have to guess. You have to imagine.
I think,
yeah, I'm very hard to impress. People who know me, work with me for a long time, will say that. I think we're gonna have one of those moments
in a few weeks.
I think
we have a podcast coming out in a few weeks.
Yeah,
to talk about that with George.
Well, the words is another thing. That's also something we're very proud of. That's a very, very difficult question for me to answer, just because the way I am, I'm very, very difficult to impress. Which is also why I think we're going to be stuck at 1% forever, because along the way of building towards that 100%, we're going to discover so much opportunity, so many things that still can be better. So it's the ideas, the potentials will probably grow faster than even we can produce a product to address them.
Are you happy?
Yeah, I'm very happy.
What makes you happy?
The feeling of accomplishment, and the feeling of being among people who I trust, I respect. That makes all the difference. It's not like I don't respect or trust the people I work with, before, but I always felt like I was hamstrung. I wasn't able to do what I want to do all the time. Now I get to do what I want to do all the time, regardless how hard they are. So that made me happy.
Well, Pa is an advisor to the SUI Network.
He's on the board on the SUI Foundation. He's a foundation board member.
What's the kind of value that no one else than Raoul can bring to an ecosystem like SUI?
Visibility. He really, really helped a lot drive visibility. This is a very, very noisy industry. A lot of narrative, constant changing. Everybody thumping their chest about how good they are. He is a way, not just because he has a big audience, but the way he articulates, he explains things. It's very easy to understand. And a good track record helps. So that's huge.
What's something that you believe in that most people would not agree with?
I think most people don't agree with us all the time. And that actually, to me, is always an opportunity. I think if everybody already agrees SUI is the best and everybody's building on SUI, then that job is, then we'll move on to the other things that people disagree with. There's always something, the audience gets bigger and bigger, right? The more success you have, the more believer you have, that means it's going to attract even more naysayers, even more people who don't believe in decentralization, decentralized technology. I'll say most things we are building, majority of the world don't agree with. And that's completely fine with me.
What's your biggest prediction for the next 24 months?
What's my biggest
prediction?
People in 24 months will look back and look at this moment and say, our understanding of what Mysten's trying to do, our understanding what SUI can enable, what the broader field of call it Web3 or crypto, their imaginations are too small. I think in 24 months, everybody's going to go back and say, we were thinking too small. It is literally the potential impacts is orders of magnitude bigger.
Said before, I think most people still don't agree with us that SUI is the best blockchain out there. Why is SUI the best blockchain out there for people to use and for developer to come?
It is not one thing, because a lot of people say, oh, you're fast and cheap and all that, you're more scalable. It's also, or some other people will say, well, it's a Move programming language that's, much more expressive and it's easier to reason with. Its developer experience is better. Some other people will say, well, because you solve a lot of consumer onboarding problem, ZK logging and whatnot, that makes it better. Some will point to, the DeFi protocols are much more interoperable than anything else out there, or programmable transaction block being this amazing client-side primitive that allow you to compose things together. Even other that are working in games will say, I love SUI because we now have data composability that we can model hierarchical assets. It's all the above. That's what people don't understand and fail to understand. It's everything together. This is not just engineering, it's design. Especially today, people always are talking about engineering. It's almost like become easier because you anticipate AI to replace software developer a lot of time. But people can always say, you still need to have that design taste. You need to have taste. You need to understand how things come together. That's what makes it different.
And feel the Apple influence here. To have design taste.
Yeah, you absolutely have to design taste, right? We could have easily come out and say, the end was pretty good. We can just improve upon it and make a better blockchain. Or we can go down any other approach and say, why don't we build a better version of an EVM chain that solves some problem? We decided to take a different route, say, no, actually everything should be different, but for a very good reason. And there's not one thing you can point to. It's everything. It really is everything. It's all the above. And all the above is not possible if we didn't come out and try to rethink everything from the ground up.
Thank you so much, Evan.
Thank you.
That was a really amazing conversation. Thank you for being so open and for sacrificing some time with your wife to make this happen and to make this entire blockchain revolution possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.